Okay, we're on.
All right, good evening and welcome to the Elyria City Council Community Development Committee meeting for Monday, January 13th, 2025. We have two items on the agenda. Item number one is the matter of a liquor license as requested by Jeffco Inc. to be transferred to VMP Enterprises LLC, 645 Cleveland Street, Elyria, permit class C1 and C2, referred by Ohio Division of Liquor Control. Any comments, questions? I'll go ahead with the committee report. We've considered the matter of a liquor license.
Mr. Chairman, did the Elyria Police Department respond?
The police, there were no concerns through police or zoning.
Okay, thank you.
All right, we have considered the matter. Any other further discussion? All right, we have considered the matter of a liquor license transfer as requested by Jeffco Inc. to VMP Enterprises LLC, 645 Cleveland Street, Elyria. Permit class C1 and C2. C1 is beer in original sealed containers for carryout only. C2 is wine and other prepackaged mixed drinks in sealed containers for carryout only. No issues with police or zoning.
Mr. Chairman, seeing there's no issues, I'd like to make a motion that the city does not require a hearing.
I'll second.
All right, motion moved by Mr. Callahan and seconded by Mrs. Mitchell. And questions, Mrs. Soroka?
Thank you. I'm not on the committee, but I do have a question. What is this location? Is this the old convenient or?
It's the
Dave-
Sunoco
Dave?
on the corner next to Rally's.
Thank you.
Any further discussion?
Question on the motion.
Question on the motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Moving on to agenda item number 2. I have a green pen. I don't want to use the green pen. All right, agenda item number 2, the matter of a stock liquor license as requested by Red Lobster Hospitality LLC, DBA Red Lobster number 632, 6935 Midway Boulevard, Elyria. Permit class D1, D2, D3, and D6, referred to by Ohio Division of Liquor Control. Any comments or concerns? Mrs. Mitchell?
Same question, Mr. Chair. Did the police have anything to say about it?
The committee report says there are no issues with police or zoning on this matter. Any further questions, concerns? Mrs. Davis?
Through you, Chair, they already had a liquor license, so what type that this is changing to? Because they served liquor there before.
I'll let Law Director Deary answer that one.
Through you, Mr. Chair, it is my understanding that the liquor permit, they're not seeking a change in type of liquor or hours or anything. This is a matter of a change in the corporate ownership. Is that?
That's the way I
Yes.
read it.
So,
The DBA.
yes, that's correct. So it's a change in the business structure.
Any further questions or concerns? All right, I'll read the committee report. We have considered the matter of a liquor license stock transfer as requested by Red Lobster Hospitality LLC, DBA Red Lobster number 632, 6935 Midway Boulevard, Elyria. Permit class D1, D2, D3, and C6. Beer, wine, and spirituous liquor for on premises until 1 a.m. on Sundays or until midnight. There are no issues with police or zoning. I'll entertain a motion. Mrs. Mitchell?
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion that the city does not request a hearing.
All right, so moved.
Second.
Second by Mr. Callahan. Any further discussion? Question's been called. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Moving on. There are no other agenda items on our, agenda. If there's no further business to come before this committee, I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
It's been moved by Mr. Lippian and seconded by Mrs. Mitchell.
Question.
Question's been called. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
At this time, I'll call finance to order. First item on the agenda is the matter of approval of the November 25th, 2024 finance meeting minutes as circulated. Can I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second?
Motion's been made and properly seconded.
Question?
Question's been called. All in favor, use the voting sign aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next item on the agenda, number 2, the matter of the delinquent and final EPU charges to be certified to the Lorraine County Auditor's Office. Director Connor.
Through you, Mr. Chair, there is a list that was provided that was approved by the Resolution Board on the 3rd of January in the amount of $26,135.31 to be referred over to the county for leaning.
Are there any questions for Mrs. Connor? Mrs. Davis?
Through you, Chair. So when I look at the list of the 4,000, 3,000, is this for 1 month, 3 months, or?
Usually about 3 months. We try to do the multis on a quarterly basis when we lien those.
Mrs. Orca?
Thank you, through the chair. We are expending an awful lot of time and energy on some of these same accounts every 3 months. Now, I noticed, I won't name names, but there are several on here that every 3 months they're on here. I just don't understand. I wish there was something else we could do to get these people to pay these bills, because it's unsettling now that now there's one in the new Four Seasons development, and then once that starts, there's hundreds of homes over there. We're going to continue to have that. I guess I'm just frustrated.
Is your question, just so I understand, is they go on the list after 3 months, they pay up, then they come back on again in another 3 months?
Sort of. I mean, it takes someone's time in Mrs. Connor's office to track these, and then to put a list together, and then to send it over to the county. So we're expending additional time and effort, and it's the same names, and I guess there's no punishment. I don't know if they're paying once they're going over there, or they're paying the 4%. See, that's the other part we don't know. I mean, once it's getting assessed, are they paying it over there? I don't know, or they're delinquent with their taxes or whatever. It's just frustrating. I wish that there was a different mechanism in place in order for us to try to get people to pay these bills, because we can't turn these people off because they're sewer only.
Mrs. Connor, go ahead.
We are getting paid on a lot of these multis through their property taxes. We might wait, for the 6-month payment to come in, but we are getting paid.
Through you, Mr. Chair, it's just, my point is, there comes a point of diminishing returns when we're putting time and effort and labor hours and time into these lists, and we're not getting reimbursed for that. It's not just a regular billing. It's extra work above and beyond, and it's the same addresses. It's not like it's 1 or 2 or, these multi-units, I get that, we can't turn them off, but I'm very bothered by the sewer-only ones that are going to start to creep up more and more.
Safety Service Director?
Thank you, through you. I think our percentage of collection is 97% overall.
Very close,
So
85 and up.
I appreciate that the collection might be delayed, but ultimately, we are collecting. And I do appreciate Councilwoman Sawerka's point regarding the additional administrative costs of, continuing to have to, enforce against the same addresses. We have talked about late fees, that kind of stuff, so we will be working on instituting that. So I'd like to see what change and what motivation that might provide to somebody. They get hit with a late fee once, are they willing to pay it a second time? So I'd like to see if that might motivate some of it and see if we can see some change, but that would be on the horizon and something we're working on. So.
Thank you.
Mr. Schneider?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I agree with everything Mrs. Sawerka has said on this matter, especially in the sewer sanitary only, and this is only going to continue to be a problem because the areas of growth, we're not servicing the water on a lot of these new developments over by the Indian Hollow area. They're all sewer sanitary only by us, so we need to start looking at a penalty or some sort of mechanism to interrupt other service to get them to pay the sewer. I don't know if that's possible, but that's just some food for thought, I guess. Thank you.
Law Director?
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair. Yes, to the committee. If, again, a delinquency, a penalty, if that's something that council's interested in legislating, that is definitely something that can be discussed. I will note that when these are referred over to the county auditor, there is an additional fee that is placed at the auditor. And so I'm not saying that that is a penalty, but in many ways it does act as it. There is an additional cost. We are not seeing that on our end, which I think is something that needs to be discussed. But from the customer's standpoint, I mean, they are in fact having to pay an additional amount. That may not bother these people. But yes, if you're looking at whether council has the ability to charge a penalty or some sort of delinquency, yes, absolutely, there's something that can be done as far as that's concerned.
Mrs. Sawerka?
Follow up to the law director. So just so I understand, we send this over, I get it, they add a 4%, I believe it's 4% fee on top of it for special assessments. Is there a window of time where someone who's had a special assessment sent over, that they can pay it before it goes on the duplicate? Or does it automatically get put on? I don't know, that's a question.
Through you, Mr. Chair, once the clerk of council sends this or walks it over in most cases to the county auditor and they attach it, it's a done deal.
Okay, that answers the question, thank you.
Is that, am I
That's exactly
misspeaking? Okay, and Mrs. Connor is nodding.
Any additional questions? Mr.
I just
Stewart?
had a question in regards, this is a good conversation in regards to it, so you're to the law director's point of penalty or a fee. Is that, on top of that, can you do a processing fee incorporated of that with not only the penalty, but a processing fee that, to Mr. Worker's point, that a lot of resources are expended upon that? I mean, you're going to have a penalty just because of that, but you can say, hey, you know what? In this whole thing of this penalty, there's going to be a processing that we're continually working at and doing that. Are you saying that the penalty is the late fee is them processing that?
Through you, Mr. Chair, there's, I think, a variety of things that could be legislated through the fee ordinance that council has. For example, I think that if I understand your question correctly, if you're saying that there would be some sort of processing fee when we send it over to the auditors, I'm not sure if I'm getting it, what you're asking.
Just like you're saying that the county has a fee that for their processing, but that if Ms. Connor or her staff is processing all this stuff, and, you know, every month, the same people are doing this over and through there, even though we're going to give them a penalty consideration, do you have to spell that out as far as more additional for processing? Or are you saying, hey, this lump sum is going to be the whole penalty in its entirety with that?
Through you, I mean, I think those are all things that we would discuss. I mean, I would remind council committee that we do have the service fee already that does take into account a lot of the people power that the
time and effort.
department does. So those are all things that would need to be calculated, but I think those are all things that merit discussion.
Safety Service Director?
Thank you, through you. The 4% fee that the auditor charged is statutory, and it's meant to help cover those administrative costs that they have to, to provide the service. I think that we structure our late fee in the same way that we factor in just one fee. You're late. Part of that is an admin fee. Part of it is, if you want to call it, for lack of a better word, a penalty, but just one flat fee for you're late, over the 30 days or however we structure it, and I think that's the easiest way of doing it. But I do think that is meant to cover some of those additional costs for the additional work that is necessary.
Are there any additional questions? If not, I'll read the committee report. We have considered the matter of inactive delinquent public utility accounts, a resolution authorizing said delinquent accounts to be certified to the Lorraine County Auditor's Office as per the attached list. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made and properly seconded.
Call for the question.
Question's been called. All in favor, use a voting sign aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Whoops. Next item on the agenda, number 3, the matter of securing, boarding up, and/or demolition charges to be certified to the Lorraine County Auditor's Office. Building Official Farkas.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you. On the list, there are 4 subject sites, varying types. We have 2 that were complete home demolitions. We have 1 that was strictly a porch, and the other was a detached garage. I have listed the estimated costs for abatement testing, removal, and ultimate demolition. I'm open for questions. Thank you.
Mr. Oswald?
Through you, Mr. Chair, and I'm not on this committee, but I just had a question. When you go out for a bid for the demolition of a house, is there like a set parameters that you enter into a contract and say that they have to do this, 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 and this, and then when they finish, then you go and inspect to make sure all those? We've just had a couple that I know you went and looked at them because of a few things, but I didn't know how much information that they have to do, to make sure that we check up on it, because sometimes things fall through the cracks, just like a few of those things. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, through you to Mr. Oswald. Yes, we refer to the Elyria Codified Ordinance, which spells out our demolition process and all the requirements of meeting EPA regulations. The contractors typically we deal with are pretty much our common everyday demolition guys that know the drill. They have been through our particular process. Kenny, in regards to your request, I think 994 Golf was one of them. In regards to it not being complete, they're not quite finished due to weather. Okay.
I get that one, thank you.
There's also liability coverage required as well, correct?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, that is through their actual insurance submittal when they get registered. They have a bond as well.
Mr. Snyder?
Through you, Mr. Chair, to Director Farkas. I'm just curious, like on the first 2, obviously these properties are not occupied because they're demoed. But on the last 2, where we're demoing a component of the property, like the porch or the garage, are those homes sometimes occupied and we're just demolishing their garages? Or like, what's the process of that?
Mr. Chair, through you, these 2 particular homes where there was a porch demolished was unoccupied, as well as the detached garage. We have had instances where the home is occupied, and typically we have to condemn it, which would basically get the occupant out due to life safety issues. You're taking away their primary ingress, egress of the front porch.
Right.
It is rare, but it has happened.
Okay, thank you.
Mrs. Mitchell?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you. I'm not on this committee, but if we're not on the committee, we don't get the list that you guys are seeing. And I think it would be helpful for those who are not on the committee to see that same information that the Finance Committee's seeing, if we could. Please.
Okay.
Thank you.
Pardon? Right, this list?
We don't get any of the lists.
Yeah, it's in the referral packet. After the council meeting. Or after the committee meeting, going to council. Go ahead,
Through you,
I'm sorry.
Mr. Chair, may I suggest then that if there's specifically the demo referrals, that council clerk's office send them to every member of council, if that's what,
That's what I'm
if
asking.
would that work?
And this one was from December.
Right, so I would just say that going forward, that the council clerk's office should send any demo referrals to all the members of council at the time of receipt.
Great question, thank you. Any additional questions? If not, I'll read the committee report. We have considered the matter of placing liens on the attached list of properties for boarding up, securing, and/or demolition charges on these properties. A resolution authorizing the said charges to be certified as liens to the Lorraine County Auditor's Office as per attached. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made and properly seconded.
Question?
Question's been called. All in favor, please use the voting sign aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Mr. Chair, if I could just clarify, I wasn't talking just specifically about the demo list. I'm talking about everything that finance gets, we would like to see as well, like the list of delinquent properties.
I think you did, I think we do.
Through you,
The December, this was from the December.
through you, Mr. Chair, just for point of clarification, are you asking prior to the committee meeting or prior to council?
Prior to the committee meetings, like, we're all here now.
Oh.
And we'd like to see
like-
what finance is seeing.
It's like the backup information that goes with it.
Yes.
that-
I
for the referrals.
apologize. I was misunderstanding.
So all council members should get all the referrals prior to the committee?
To the committee,
Prior to the
not
committee.
prior to
So go
council.
ahead and continue making copies of, like, being redundant and continue making.
Every referral and all the backup should go to all council members at the time that it's received.
And, okay.
If you're saying that's happening, then that's happening, but not before the council meeting, before the committee meeting.
Right after the council meeting. Get those right after the council.
The council
So-
meeting when it's referred?
Correct. If this was referred on December 16th.
Okay. Through you, Mr. Chair, I think that's something that probably that Mr. Lotco and Mr.
I
Stewart's
will
nodding his
discuss
head.
with the
Okay.
clerk's
Okay.
office. Thank you.
All right. I may be misunderstanding.
Okay. Next item on the agenda, number 4, the matter of finding city property no longer suitable for public use and to be taken out of service and sold or auctioned on govdeals.com. Safety Service Director.
Thank you, through you. We had a room full of COVID supplies still. We had quite a few masks that had expired, so we've disposed of those. We didn't feel like it was a good idea to sell them or even donate them somewhere because they were expired. But we had a couple of pieces of equipment that we thought probably still have a useful life somewhere else. Some of them are new in box, but they don't have a useful life for us. So we wanted to go ahead and put them on GovDeals and nothing else, free up the space.
Thank you. Any questions? If not, I'll read the committee report. We have considered the matter of finding the city has obsolete equipment that is unfit for municipal use and to be disposed of on govdeals.com. A resolution finding the city has obsolete equipment that is unfit for municipal use. An ordinance authorizing the said equipment unfit and to be disposed of by the best means possible in accordance with the law per the attached list. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made and properly seconded.
Call for the question.
Question's been called. All in favor, use the voting sign aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Number 5, the matter of entering into a contract renewal agreement between the city and Retzel and Andrus for legal services for 2025. Director Panowski.
Thank you, through you. This is a renewal of the contract for Susan Anderson, who is the labor counsel for the city. I think you're all familiar with her. She helps us with our labor agreements, and she's helped us through negotiations. She helps us, sometimes we have an employee issue or, kind of working through those things. So she's of great benefit to us, and this is just a renewal of her contract.
Does this need to be an emergency?
Given how far we into the month, I would ask that if it could, that would be helpful. There is a slight hourly increase, I think it's $25, so just to point that out.
Thank you. Any additional questions? If not, I'll read the committee report. We have considered the matter of a contract renewal agreement for professional services with Retzel and Andrus for legal services for the year 2025, and an ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into said contract renewal and not to exceed $130,000. This is an emergency. Can I get a motion, please?
So moved, and I would add that Mrs. Anderson does a fantastic job.
Second.
Motion's been made and properly seconded.
Call for the question.
Question's been called. All in favor, use the voting sign aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 6, the matter of accepting an assistance to firefighters grant, AFG, for 2025. Fire Chief Pronesti.
Good evening. That time of year again where we have the ability to put in for the fire grant. This year, I think our best course is again to put in for another apparatus. We discussed with the director and my staff on some of the things. Equipment-wise, we're, besides apparatus, regular equipment-wise, we're in good shape. It's the apparatus that we should try for. I'm hopeful, but I think that's probably our best course due to the costs that we're going to be incurring with the apparatus every year now that, every year that we don't look at having some sort of replacement plan or, you saw the cost of the pumpers now are close to $1 million. So I think we should probably continue on the course of trying to get these grants while we can, but it's stiff competition and all we can do is put in and try, but that's probably our best course is to put in for an apparatus.
Going back in time, we replaced tanks, air tanks, that I guess have a life. Are we okay?
Yeah, we did that we did not do that, with grant money, but yes, we are fine. And I have line items now, line item in my budget where every year we're purchasing those air cylinders, so many, so they do have a life expectancy, and so they don't go. So, yeah, I think we're good. Administration's been good as far as equipment. It's apparatus that is the costly one.
Okay. Any questions from the committee? Mr. Stewart?
Yes, I'm not on this committee. This goes, what's the grant for as far as a dollar amount? Is there a?
I believe it's going to be the last pumper that we purchased with, I believe issue 6 funding was what did we put aside, Director, 980? I think this one will still be right under 100, or $1 million, I'm sorry, but it'll be just, I think we put $10,000 more, 15,000, so it'll be right at $1 million, you might as well just say.
But what's the grant amount, though, that you're applying?
Oh, it's the grant amount's going to be for that.
For that amount?
For that amount, yes. But there is a cost to the city if we are awarded, I believe it's a 10% match with that if we do get this, then that would be on the city as far as the purchase.
Safety Service Director?
Thank you. I just wanted to point out that the city, should we be awarded, does have a match obligation, but it's significantly less than the total cost of the apparatus. So.
Right.
And the law director had a questions about the ordinance.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Chair. So, Mr. Pileski, should we be awarded this and the city have to come up with the match, where would you want the legislation to specify the match would come from?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, through the 2016 half % income tax fund.
And then, thank you, and through you, Mr. Chair, what is the application deadline, Chief?
It already came and passed.
So has the application been submitted then?
Yes.
So you're looking for a ratification then? Okay.
Any additional questions? If not, I will read the committee report. We have considered the matter of applying for and accepting the Assistance to Firefighters Grant AFG for the year 2025. An ordinance authorizing the mayor to apply for the said grant. Emergency clause is requested. Could I get a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made and properly seconded.
Question.
Question's been called. All in favor, please use the voting sign aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Thank you, Chief. Item number 7, the matter of a replacement contract with Axon for EPD body-worn and in-car cameras and equipment. Sergeant Buckway. Welcome.
The police department currently has several contracts with Axon Enterprises for our body-worn cameras, our tasers, and our in-car vehicle camera systems, as well as virtual training headgear and software that we use. Since we got involved with Axon, they've incorporated a couple different companies, and with that, they've bundled a lot of their services. This bundle, in addition to the fact that they've never had a contract longer than 5 years with any municipal organization before, allows us to lock in pricing with the company, and over the course of the 10-year contract, save us roughly over $2 million. In addition to that, it will guarantee that all of the equipment that we have, that we didn't have before, will be replaced on a particular basis depending on the type of equipment. Currently, the in-car camera systems we have now, they're ours. If they don't break, great, but all we can do is fix them. Under this contract, in 5 years, we'd get brand new. That means if they have a new model, we get the new model if we wish to have it. If we like what we have, they'll replace that as well. And then at the end of the contract, they'll do that again. For our tasers, that's the same thing every 5 years. Technology continues to get better. Axon does a really good job in attempting to find out what's effective, make our job a little easier, make it safer for the people that we're interacting with, and the same with the body cameras. The current body cameras that we have, we're able to see if we were to have a major incident. With council, you're aware we've had swatting incidents. We've had to respond to schools for stuff. We can see on a map where every one of our officers is that there's recording. With this upgrade, not only will we have that, but the officer in charge sitting at the desk will be able to live stream up to 20 individual officers into the office to be able to see what's going on and have a better understanding of who to get and where we need to get people to. In addition to this, we will be getting software that will streamline our process for reviewing use of force incidents, vehicle pursuits, anything that we have. Currently, we type it, we print it, we sign it, we scan it to put it back in the computer. This is all done electronically with an audit trail. One of the biggest things that we're getting with this is unlimited third-party digital evidence storage. That will allow us to have, from a document to a cell phone extraction that our detective bureau does. They have currently filled up one entire server in that room, and they just purchased another computer to do more cell phone extractions. We will not have to worry about that for the next 10 years. It will go into one spot. It is CJIS compliant. They are vetted by the Department of Defense. It will also give us an additional 60 license plate reader cameras through our in-car system. With the flip of the switch, they will turn them on every single in-car system that we have, to include the one on the fire chief's vehicle, will begin reading license plates. So if there is a missing or wanted person that comes into the city and our vehicles pick that up, our officers will receive alerts for that. That it will be integrated with Flock and any other system that's out there. The last big advantage to going with this is Axon recently acquired a company called Fusus. Fusus is a real-time crime center company. In order to have a real-time crime center in the city of Elyria, we would have to, one, build an entire station inside a dispatch with all the camera feeds that we would bring in and man that. Fusus will allow us to have 150 video camera feeds. It's included in the price that we're already paying. And every officer that has a computer or a mobile device will be able to go on and see what's going on. If we have an alarm that takes place at a business and they are giving us their feeds, we can, without even sending an officer, pull up those feeds, verify the fact there's no windows broken, there's no doors open, there's nobody in the parking lot. We don't have to send an officer out there. We can cut down in response times to a lot of those. As council's aware, we had to deal with a lot of false alarms throughout the course of every single year.
It's unbelievable technology. Safety Service Director, we'll start with you.
Thank you, through you. We've been using Axon for how many years, Sergeant Buckway?
Through the chair, we started with the tasers. We've had the tasers for almost a decade now. The body-worn cameras, we are into our second year, so we're actually up for our first replacement. We've just held off on the replacement because with the contract, they're going to buy back some that we purchased extra because we kind of thought ahead of the game and had more. So they're going to give us a credit for all of that software as well as all of the hardware as well.
If you remember going back, I believe, 4 years when we started talking about the body cameras, IT came to us, and that was one of their biggest concerns was data storage that had to be pulled for going to court with. And this obviously, we can forget about, I don't want to say forget about that problem, but it's something that's handled now.
Well, I mean, you know, we've had a relationship with this company for a number of years now, using multiple products that they have. And you know, as they've grown, our needs have grown as well. And I think this technology is going to continue to be part of the police force. It's not something that's going to go away, whether it's tasers, body cams, or dash cams. And so we've had the experience with them to know that we're getting a good product, a good service, and we build a relationship. So it is a 10-year contract, but I think that we have enough experience with them to have confidence that we're going to continue to have a good relationship that provides what we need in order to maintain this equipment, but also advance it as it advances. We're going to get updates. We're going to have things that are going to help us be more efficient and do the job better. So I'm in support of this.
Thank you. Mrs. Sawerka.
Thank you, through the chair. Thank you, Sergeant Buckway. Obviously, we need this equipment. We need this technology. Do we have a cost estimate? I didn't see any pricing. Is it per year, per month, per officer?
Through you.
Please.
Yes. The current contract that we have now, we are set to pay an invoice to them for $311,630.78. What they've done, the total price over the course of the 10 years is $5,395,272. It is an increase. The first year, they are going to invoice us what we were going to pay them originally. And then from there, the additional cost is broken down over the remaining 9 years. If we replace these pieces of equipment and get into these contracts as they expire, we are looking at an estimated a la carte cost of $8 million over the course of 10 years. They did not have these bundles when we first started, or this is something we would have went with in the very beginning, similar to a cell phone company. If you get X, Y, and Z, we'll cut a bunch of the money off. So again, the price breakdown that I'll be happy to get to the council on the executive quote that came in from them gives a breakdown of everything, and the big thing is the cost savings of $2 million if we were to just renew these contracts as they came up.
And we're farther ahead with the technology by taking advantage of this.
Correct. Yeah, next year, the officer safety plan price is going to go up. We're locked in. We don't have to worry about those increases because we've already gotten our quote in place.
We need it. We need it. I knew it'd be pricey, but we need it. Thank you.
Safety Service Director.
And just for clarity, this 10-year contract is going to discontinue whatever contracts we already have with them and put everything in one agreement. So, I mean, we do have some other contracts with them that go into the future that end at different times and for different terms. This will clean that up and give us some predictability for the next 10 years as well, and it'll end those contracts because this will assume them.
Thank you. Mr. Armstrong, I believe you had your hand up.
Yes, through you, Chair. So you said the savings per year is $273,141. Is that what I'm looking at here for the cost overview?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chair. The total savings over the course of the entire contract is $2,196,911.80.
So what you're looking at, I'd say, is divided by 10 years, or that's the divisor.
Yeah, that $311,000 that's due this year, there's already a built-in increase for next year off of the contracts that we already have.
Through you, Chair. So that's where the extra $200,000 comes from, the added increase? Because it would be $564 in year 2.
Correct. We're essentially going to be adding 4 different components of software that we didn't have before that's going to increase efficiency, not only for us, but through the law director's office as well. They have 2 licenses over there. We are getting the ability to take anyone's video surveillance cameras that we used to have to take a flash drive, hope that you got the file to open up the computer files to be able to view them, and a lot of times we'd get them back to the station, the file didn't work and we couldn't watch the videos. One of the software features that we're getting is it doesn't matter what it is. Axon's already reached out to all of these companies and gotten their codec for technical speak, and they will decode that and break it down into a video that I can send you on your cell phone, you can watch at home. And if not, they will do all the legwork for us to make sure that that video is put in place for us.
Can you send this data to court clerks, like to Muni Court or?
Currently, what we do now at the municipal court level, I'm the one that handles all of the Muni Court requests. So when they come in, the nice thing is we take all of our evidence. Our officers are now using their cell phones. Axon has a free app that's called Axon Capture. I could take pictures of a crime scene on my phone. The nice thing is it puts a GPS marker on it, it puts a time and date stamp, it uploads everything up. You put your number in, it shows exactly who it's done by. That goes all into one nice, neat little case. I share a copy of the case with the court. We maintain the original evidence. They get a copy that they can send off to the defense attorneys. In addition to that, the audit trail that we get shows any change that's made. So if I go into the system and somebody made a typo on the case name, if I change it, it will show my user ID when I logged in, the IP address that I logged in at, the change that was made, what it was originally, what it came back to. Right now, our chain of custody, and it's very solid, we've never lost a chain of custody in court, is on paper. This is automated and completely done. We can share we share currently with the FBI, we share with the United States Marshal Service. We do in fact use Common Pleas Court. They've accepted ours. They wanted us to go on Matrix. Matrix is an extra level of work for our records people. It's taking all of our stuff that's in our system, scanning it into their system to make it easy for them over there. They've agreed to just take all of our Axon cases. I can also tell you that by not bundling it like Director Pianowski said, if we start piecemealing what we have with different companies, we'll take the sheriff's office. The sheriff's office uses one system for their in-car camera system. They use another system for their body cam. So they have to send video over to the court, and it's tying up their server. We don't take up any server space. Everything that's shared by the court is shared directly. It doesn't take up any space for the court, doesn't take any space up for us.
cloud-based.
Everything is cloud-based. Everything is CJIS compliant. We've had multiple public records requests from some of our residents that we've had interactions with, and we've gotten that, you never sent me the videos. Again, with the audit trail, I can go in, I can pull the video up. If you create a username, I see your username, I see if you watched it, I see if you downloaded it, and I highlight it, I send it back and say, maybe you were mistaken, we sent this to you on this day. And that alleviates a lot of the problem of saying we didn't get our public records.
Mrs. Mitchell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you. I know that Governor DeWine signed a bill allowing police departments to charge to individuals to view that information. Is that something that we plan on doing, or is that an administration question? I don't know.
Law Director.
Thank you.
Through you, Mr. Chair. So that will be going into effect. It was 90 days from the signing, so a little less than 90 days. Like many things at the General Assembly level, it was left to, basically, it's enabling. It says that local communities may do this. I believe that will be something that will be coming before council for discussion. And I can tell you right now, there's a lot of moving parts to whether that decision would be made. I fully anticipate that there will be challenges made to that law. And quite honestly, I do not think that Elyria should be on the forefront of that battle, because basically what you have is the public's right to see, they are the people's records, and also this very pragmatic argument of whether or not,
To charge for exculpatory evidence.
well, just public records, whether it's evidence or not. They're public records. No other types of records are there, the financial conditions placed upon them. On the other hand, I can speak firsthand, it is exceptionally time-consuming, it is exceptionally arduous, and so there's a balancing approach there. So that will be a discussion that I believe will be in the near future coming to these chambers for the legislative authority to make some decisions about.
Mr. Stewart?
Thank you. Again, I'm not on this committee. It's an invaluable tool that we use, and we, fought for this and with the residents and just trying to give them the best that we can for our police, for our residents, and that. I guess the big thing for me is a funding mechanism for this replacement cost. I know a lot of this was funded by issues, the 2016 0.5%. What's the funding mechanism look like here for this? Finance Director Pileski or the Safety Service Director's or Administration?
Through you, Mr. Chair, well, most of it will come from the general fund, but we also have the ability to charge to the police levy fund and/or the 2016 0.5% income tax fund. And there's a number of other funds that are associated with the police department, like the Law Enforcement Trust Fund, mandatory drug fine fund. So it could be a combination of several funds.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any additional questions? If not, I'll read the committee report. Yes, can you look at this, please? Okay, at this time, I'll read the committee report. We have considered the matter of entering into a replacement contract with Axon for EPD body-worn and in-car cameras and equipment, an ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into said, contract. Emergency clause is requested. Can I get a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made and properly seconded.
Call for the question.
Question's been called. All in favor, please use a voting sign aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Item number 8, the matter of entering into a consulting contract with Fitch and Associates for EMS, referred by Mayor Brubaker. Mayor?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As you know, about this time last year, we started to have the discussion
about our EMS transport and the contract with Life Care. And just to give you a quick update on that as we get into this, we spent about $273,000 for an 11 and a half months of service with Life Care. That's about 2,166 transports that we had at about $126. So we spent $273. We had budgeted $400,000. Keep in mind, the month of January and the first couple weeks of February did not count because they did not bill us for anything. They did not start billing us until the middle of February. And during that conversation, we started to have a conversation about what does the future of Elyria look like in regards to whether our fire department was going to do EMS transport, whether we were going to just stay with Life Care. As you know, we are in a 4-year contract with them. But we were compelled, the administration was compelled to do a study to see what it would cost. Is it feasible for us to do it? What does it look like? And tonight before you is the company that we felt best fit, Fitch & Associates. They're out of Missouri. I did send a couple weeks ago or a week and a half or so ago what it looked like. The contract is currently in the law director's office putting together the contract on what it looks like. The cost is $69,995 to do this. I would imagine that it would be appropriated out of the general fund through the mayor's office under professional services. But this organization, I did reach out to its references, just like I did with the next one that'll be on the agenda this evening, and spoke with several people within those. They were very happy with the work that was done. They felt that they did a complete organizational look. We're taking it a little bit deeper. We are looking, if you look at the 4 scopes of work, they're going to evaluate what's currently happening with Life Care. They're going to conduct a fiscal analysis of EMS within the city. They're going to assess the feasibility of the fire department providing transport, and then ultimately conduct analysis on looking at what other alternatives are there. Does that mean we bring in another third party? Does that mean we do it ourselves and we hire folks, EMS people, to run those transports? It's going to be all encompassing. The idea is determined based on what you have asked for, whether we can afford to do EMS transport, what that cost looks like, how many vehicles do we need, how many personnel do we need, and then be able to report back to you at City Council in a very comprehensive way on what that looks like. So as we move forward, we can make an educated decision. We're obviously now going into year 2 of that contract. It's going to take a number of months, probably most of this year, to complete this. And we should be able to have an analysis for you to make that decision on, what is our next steps? Do we need to start planning for us to buy squads and do EMS transport when the contract is up? Or do we look in some other direction as recommended by the analysis? I will let you know that Life Care is aware that we are looking to do this. The director and I are in constant conversation with them. So they knew that this referral was coming. I think they've known that for the most of the year because this is what council has asked. So I am asking, did it have to come before council for approval? No, it is under the $75,000, but it is transparency. It's also allow you to weigh in. But I think it's going to meet the needs of the analysis that you have asked for. So I am open to for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. I completely support this, but one thing that I'll reiterate is we have Chief Pernesti available to us for about another year. And I would please ask that his in-depth knowledge is drawn upon as we contemplate any potential change.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, and to you, I have reviewed this with the chief. He has given me input on that, and he can speak for himself on that tonight because I would assume there will be some questions for him.
Thank you. Mrs. Sawerka.
Thank you, through the chair. Is there a time frame on this? I was looking through this and I didn't see a deliverable. Is it 6 months?
Verbally, they have told us 6 months on the deliverable on that. They believe they can get it done sooner, depending on, this will be hopefully passed as an emergency tonight. I've already sent it down to law director's office. They, quite frankly, they've been working very quickly on these contracts. The goal was to be able to have this in place so they could start February 1, I think is what I put on the contract date.
Through the chair, are they doing on-site visits as well as the remote work?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, yes, there will be on-site visits. Remotely, I know Chief Pernesti has been eagerly putting together data to provide to them. So they'll be doing some rope, they'll be on site looking at what we have, as well as evaluating our current personnel.
One additional question through the chair. The hospital is aware and on board with this as well?
I have spoken to Mr. Ellenberger and to the CEO, Mr. Hartford there. They are both on board with this, and they knew this was coming as well, and I do meet with them quarterly, so they were aware of this.
Thank you. Are there any other questions from the committee? If not, I will read the committee report. We have considered the matter of entering into a consulting contract with Fitch and Associates for a comprehensive review of EMS services and fire department feasibility study, and an ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into said contract. Monies will come from general fund, professional services. Suspension and emergency clause are requested. Can I get a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made and properly seconded.
Question.
Question's been called. All in favor, please use the voting sign aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Changed it. Next item on the agenda, number 9, the matter of entering into a 3-year contract with Retail Strategies for consulting services. Mayor?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you. About a month or so ago, I had read an article in the paper about one of the local communities, had touched base with them and doing some work with them, Lorraine, quite frankly. And as I read that article, one of the things that stuck out to me was they have the capability of marketing to urban type of grocery stores. And that piqued my interest because obviously we are dealing with a situation where Aldi's had left. So I had reached out to them, Ms. Culvert and I had reached out to them. We've had multiple conversations, but there was a much more expansive process that I felt would benefit the city of Elyria. We could hire them to train our people to do this process, to go out and market the city, do it. And this is not a study, this is an analysis of the city. What can they bring to the city? What can they market to the city? They were out, 2 of them are here tonight. I'll introduce them in a minute. They flew in from Alabama. They've driven around the city, kind of already given us some preliminary feedback. But I felt like we don't have the time to take months to train folks to do this. So I thought the better idea was to have them jump right in, start to market some of our areas here in the city. They have connections with major, and you would have seen that in the report I sent you. Not just big box stores, and I know Mrs. Sawerka had mentioned that before, about box stores leaving with, big lots and that stuff. It's not just box stores, it's other smart. There's TJ Maxx. I know Ms. Mitchell and I had talked about that. Some places that folks in Elyria could go and shop, they can eat, and I was very intrigued by that. So in multiple Zoom calls we had with them, I felt very comfortable in bringing them. It's $50,000 a year for 3 years, issue 6, 2016, economic development could handle that. And what I've read, and I said in one of my reports to you folks, to council, is that I did reach out to their references too. Now, I do understand that when someone puts a reference on, they're not putting somebody on that is going to say something negative out of it. But I talked to a couple mayors, I talked to city managers, and if you read anything in there, in the report that I had sent you, these folks were telling me they were more than exceeded the amount of money in revenue and retail that they brought into their city. I thought 3 years was sufficient for what they had to offer. I'm very excited about this type of project or program in Elyria. Quite honestly, we don't have people in Elyria to go out and market, within the city and to market. We have land the city owns over by the mall. We have vacant buildings over by the mall that they have connections with. And again, I'm very intrigued with the opportunity of maybe bringing a grocery store to the south side. I have some ideas how we can make that happen. But I will stop here, and Ms. Culvert will go to the microphone. But with us tonight is Ryan Culp. He's the Senior Vice President, and Lizzie Sanders, who's the Associate of Community Partnerships. They flew in this afternoon. They offered to come in and speak tonight. I was very happy to have them. So Ms. Calvert will delve in a little bit more and then have our guests give a short presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor, through you, Mr. Chairman. If you might remember during the comprehensive land use plan, that process that we went through, that council adopted, participants in that plan were asked, what did you want to do in Elyria that you couldn't do? And it was tied between dining and shopping. So with that in mind, we were introduced to retail strategies, like the mayor explained, and thought this would be a great solution to help deliver on that need and that desire by Illyrians to have shopping and dining, more shopping and dining in the community. So they came together with a proposal. They're going to share a little bit with us, if a presentation is allowable, about their company and the work that they do. But really, they said, we're going to take a very intelligent look at it. We're going to understand who the consumers are in the area, and we're going to pair them through their networks and the relationships they have with the types of retailers who could be successful in a community like Elyria. So they're going to do that market analysis. They're going to do a real estate assessment, which I think will be very helpful to us to understand what is our asset class and categories in the city, and what gaps there might be that we as the city might need to work on to attract more retailers to the community. They're going to help us with that strategy, and then they're going to build those. They're going to leverage their leverage their relationships that they have to help bring more retailers into the community. So, as Mayor said, it is a 3-year commitment, $50,000 per year, and we have a lot of hopes that this will be a lot of expectations, I should say, that this will be a return on investment in a relatively short period of time. So if there's no questions for me about that, I would invite them to the podium. So, okay, thank you.
Well, Mayor, Council, Ms. Calvert, thank you for letting us come and talk with you tonight. I'm Ryan Culp. I'm our Senior Vice President for Business Development at Retail Strategies. I'm very excited to be here, one, because of the market that Elyria is and the assets that are here, but also because my mom is from Northeast Ohio, and much more rural Northeast Ohio in Conneaut, but it's somewhere that's still very special to me. I will start off by saying I am not a professor. I work for an economic development consultancy, so I'm going to go through some slides, but if there's something you want to learn more about, talk about, stop me. Let's get into it. Let's ask questions. Let's understand what we need to make this partnership successful. So we'll start with just a background on our firm. We were founded in 2011. We have worked with a little over 800 communities since our founding in 2011. Have a really wide range of retail and restaurant real estate professionals within our 4 walls. We are also the only municipal economic and community development consulting firm with a full-service commercial real estate team in-house. That team isn't transacting, but that team brings experience and a Rolodex and relationships to every client that we get to work with. We're also very involved across all of the retail and restaurant industry groups that are out there. There is ICSC, which is really the market leader for retail within the United States. Our president serves on their board of directors. Also a member of Main Street America, IDA, ICMA, NLC. We can go down the list, but again, I'm not a professor. I won't bore you with acronyms, but to say we are involved, and communities are what we are really passionate about. As a quick overview, continued, currently have about 335 active clients. We maintain a 4-to-1 client to staff ratio, so we try and, our team is our most valuable asset, so we don't ever want to grow. We will not grow out to a territory or to a client group too large to service. And for communities where we work. We bring in an average about $105,000 of new annual sales tax per community. We know it's a little different in Ohio with counties and how we're rev sharing. We understand, but worth noting, we're very metric driven. Let's get into the why. Why are we here? City of Elyria has a great team. Ms. Calvert has been awesome to work with. We've loved getting to work with the mayor. But as we have talked about, there is a gap in dining, there is a gap in shopping, which can play into population loss, can play into quality of life issues. What do we do? How do we deal with that? Let's go find the amenities that attract people in, that give them that quality of life. But we have a very talented staff, but also a very busy staff in Elyria, right? Our directors, our counselors, our volunteers are all doing other things. Who has the time to go and learn all of this, develop the relationships to ultimately get us where we want to go? And that's really what we bring to the table. Why we're really interested in Elyria specifically, and I think one of the reasons we're at this point, is as we examine the marketplace, Elyria annually has $124 million of retail leakage. And what that means is every year, the residents of Elyria spend $124 million outside of the city limits of Elyria instead of spending those dollars inside the city limits of Elyria. We always want to say Manhattan has a retail leakage. People are always going to leave to buy something, but that is a number that we want to try and whittle down and chip away at and get lower. To Ms. Calvert's point, the two of the largest categories of retail leakage in Elyria are clothing, health and beauty, and full-service restaurants. That makes up a really big portion of that, and so there's a really immediate need, which shows it's not a cannibalization of the current market. We're not trying to take dollars away. Those are dollars that are already being spent by citizens, but they're dollars that are being spent in another community. Our process really works in 4 parts. We start with data and our market analysis, which is kind of a desktop analysis of the data. We do a boots on the ground real estate assessment where we come to the market, we look at every piece of property, on market, off market, listed, unlisted. We deliver a strategy, we deliver a plan, but then where the rubber really meets the road for us, excuse me, is our business attraction and community representation, where we are acting on behalf of the city and marketing the property that's in the city directly to brands, to brokers, to tenant reps, to the companies themselves, real estate directors who would be interested and whose criteria match what Elyria has to offer. We'll get into process just a little bit. I will be brief and not get too into the weeds of data because I like to, but I won't. We spend about $200,000 a year on data. We start with mobile collection data. Everyone has a cell phone in their pocket, and unless you opt out, most of our cell phones are tracking us everywhere we go. So we are able to track who's coming into the city or leaving the city to buy what to a pretty high level of confidence. Then we have a trade area identification where we say who's coming into Elyria to spend. Let's draw those boundaries. Retailers don't look at sites based on city. They look at trade areas. We love city boundaries, and we have townships, and we have counties, and we have cities. Retailers don't really care. They want to know how many people are going to come to my store to buy. We'll do pure and void analysis, leakage, consumer expenditures through credit card reports, excuse me, and a full psychographic analysis of all the people spending money in the city right now. Then is our boots on the ground assessment, where we have our team that comes and spends a day or two in the market and catalogs all of the retail real estate that is available or appropriate for the type of retailers that we're going to go after. So that can be on market, it can be off market, it can be backfill, like we were looking today at the mall area, at River Crossing. We've got the Buffalo Wild Wings. There's some other strips that could be really enticing for other users. And we catalog a number of things that then we're able to go and market to the retailers for that. But that's something that we're not really willing to compromise on. We think that you have to see it, you have to touch it, you have to kick dirt. That's a really important part of our process, is seeing all of that real estate in person and how do we apply the highest and best use to that. From there, we develop a plan. We try and deliver this plan. It's a 70-page document. We deliver it to you. It's not and present it to you very similar fashion to how we are here tonight. It's not something that is meant to sit on a desk. It's meant to be something that we live by and act on. And we want to walk through that and have your buy-in on that document before we move forward. Because after that 6 month, after we deliver that plan at month 6, that is really our guiding light for the next 2.5 years of our partnership. And if we have, hey, we think Scooter's Coffee is going to be a great fit for the market, and someone on council says, I hate Scooter's Coffee, we don't want that, then we'll say, great, we're not going to go and get Scooter's Coffee because that doesn't fit for us. We also deliver marketing guides to the community that we can keep here in City Hall. So if there is a developer who calls, or if a local broker needs some collateral, needs that material that a brand or a tenant rep would need, it's readily available. You have it, you can deliver it just at the click of a mouse and owned by you. Really, the crux of all of this is our business attraction and conference representation. Our network is your network, is what we say. We attend a couple of trade shows every year, and a couple being like 70. It's just at the single ICSC Vegas show, which is the largest retail trade show in America. Last year, we had 405 meetings across our team. So to say it's a super high volume, which is a lot of what we bring to the table, is it's not one person saying, well, let me see if I can get you 4 or 5 meetings at this show. We're going to meet with hundreds and hundreds of retailers, developers throughout the year to try and match the property here with the brands that could go there. We get really passionate about this because we care a lot about storytelling and who is telling your story. And Lizzie and I were driving the market today and see that Colliers is representing a lot of property, CBRE is representing a lot of property. We work with Colliers, we work with CBRE. This is in no way a knock on them, but does a broker that sits in Cleveland know how to tell the story of Elyria to a tenant or to a brand in the way that someone who is dedicated to doing that does? And we don't think they do, candidly. Again, we love you, Colliers and CBRE, but we want to tell your story correctly. We'll kind of end with this. We talk about the 4-to-1 staff-to-client ratio. Michael Warsaw and Jimmy Pritchett would be the primary points of contact for Elyria. They only work in this part of the United States. So whereas some of our team is really focused on developing relationships with like a Publix, Michael and Jimmy are not focused on developing relationships with Publix. They're focused on developing relationships with Aldi, Lidl, Meijer, the groups that are going to, Menards, groups that are going to open stores in this part of the country, not the groups that are going to open stores in other parts of the country. They're very hyper-focused on what's local, what's regional, what's realistic for the community here. With that, I'll end, or not end with, but transparency is important to us. We provide quarterly reports, but we also have a platform called Basecamp where everyone can have a login, and at any time you can go in and see what we're doing, see the activity, see the conversations. We don't want to hide that. We don't want to live behind a black box and show up once a year and say, trust us, we're working, right? We want to have some exposure to that team so that you can see who are they talking to, what are the conversations they've had, did they get a no, why did they get a no, is it because there's not enough signage at the Midway Mall for that to attract a retailer? We'll tell you, right? We don't want to live behind a curtain. Quickly, we've recruited about 800 retailers into our 800 or so client communities, helped create 13,000 jobs in our client communities, and created $46 million in new annual sales tax. Tried to be brief. Sorry if I went fast, but would love to answer questions and get into more detail.
Thank you very much. Mr. Oswald.
Through you, Mr. Chair. So we in the council here know that we want shopping, we want grocery stores, retail, just like you said, okay? We've got areas that we know that there's a space for a grocery store or retail. Okay, how can you close the door on making this happen when we have the opportunity and we have not been able to? What can you do better than we can? Are you going to bring in the developers? We have developers that say that they're going to do one thing and they do another thing, so how are you going to close the door on these deals? Thanks.
Sure. Great question. Part of that is, remember, number one, we work for you. We don't work for an investor group. We are the city's client, and when a developer's burden has to respond to whoever is investing in them, whatever they're looking at, we are representing the city only, and that's our priority. We act as I I don't want to say middleman because that makes it sound too simple, but we coordinate all of those groups. We talk to brands, we talk to developers, we talk to brokers, we're talking to the city, we're talking to our point of contact to make sure that what we are bringing is what everyone at the table is agreeing on. When you talk about specific strategy, part of that would be that our experience and our Rolodex that comes with that. We have developed shopping centers. We have placed more than 800 retailers in communities. I don't know if it's been announced yet, but there are grocery stores that we are bringing to Ohio communities that are clients. When a real estate director gets a call from Michael Warsaw or Jimmy Pritchett, his inclination to pick up the phone is much higher than getting a phone call from somebody that he might not know and might not have his number saved in his phone, right? So it's relationship, experience, and also the ability to bring all the parties that you mentioned to the table to make sure that we're all singing off the same sheet of music.
Mr. Armstrong?
Through you, Chair, I'm not on this committee, but I have a question. So this will be a 3-year plan that's focused on dine-in and shopping, correct?
The plan is delivered about month 6. It's a 3-year partnership that is focused on all retail, but with that plan presentation, there's opportunity for input from council if you say, we don't want that, we do want this, but it is generally focused on all things retail, which is primarily restaurant and shopping.
Through you, Chair. Another question. So we do have a need for a grocery store, but if we're going to be focusing on, me taking my colleagues out to another Cooper Hawk or taking the mayor out to get some Jordans, how does that really help me get, or us as the city, get another grocery store?
Yeah. 2 parts. One, retail is a flywheel, and people go where there is momentum and where there is proof in the action, right? Where a retailer, we have had conversations with retailers that we won't mention names. They say, I won't go there until I see a Target and a Starbucks, and that's it, period, right? And so until we get those things, they're not going to go. They want to see the data. They want to see it supported. Nobody likes to be the first mover in retail, so we have to pull on that flywheel and get the flywheel moving to then do the others. Part of it is also time with grocery stores. Grocery stores are longer-term projects. If we're in, my background's in industrial, and so we're thinking think of a mega project, think of a steel mill, think of a car maker. That's how we think of grocery stores. But we don't want to limit ourselves and say, let's just do a grocery store. If we can hit some singles and doubles along the way, let's hit some singles and doubles along the way.
Ms. Mitchell?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you, I'm not on this committee. So in your analysis, do you speak with the residents of the city to see what their desire is, or do you get that information from what the mayor and Dawn have given you? Because you can't bring a Saks Fifth Avenue here.
Correct.
We are not a Saks Fifth Avenue city. So you understand what I'm saying? Oh, yeah. Do you understand what I'm asking?
I do, absolutely. I mean, that really comes in that first in the data analysis piece. You're not a Saks Fifth Avenue community, and Saks Fifth Avenue knows you're not a Saks Fifth Avenue community. Marshalls has a plan to open 42 new stores this year. Marshalls would be a great fit because there are demos that do match, and so that's where we start with the data side, is so that we can match the appropriate demographics and psychographics, the right spenders with the right brands.
Mr. Snyder?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I have 2 things I wanted to discuss. The first is when you're giving the data to these people, to these potential companies or clients that you're working with, are you able to communicate that we are like the county seat and that we're a major employer hub in the county and people are coming here daily for work purposes, so you could catch them like on their routes to and from?
We do. They do. That's a big part of our data when we talk about trade area and the data analysis is VPD and traffic counts and which way are they going. AM and PM this is, again, I try not to get in the weeds, but AM and PM is really important to retailers. Like a Chick-fil-A, they want to be on the AM side of the road where everybody's going to work and to school. That's where they want to be. A grocery store wants to be on the PM side of the road. And so that's part of when we talk about storytelling with that data is part of how we do that.
And my second question was, I've seen presentations from in these chambers in the past where they've analyzed the entire zip code. And I hope we're not the entire zip code. The city of Elyria is not all of 44035. because I've sat through presentations and they've said, oh, this is a great area here. It's not anything we would ever benefit from if they developed the northeast corner of 44035. So you're aware of this, the demographic setup, correct?
We very much are, and it's a little scary how much Big Brother is watching, because we are actually, what we're looking at is the cell phone data of people that are coming into, we'll look at like specific nodes. So who's coming specifically to the Home Depot, who's coming specifically to Target, who's coming specifically to the Walmart, right? And we can pull all the data and all the cell phones coming into those markets and seeing who's coming in and where do they live. So we're focused, we talk about trade area, we're not pulling based on zip codes, we're pulling based on the cell phones that are in all of our pockets.
Mrs. Sawerka?
Through the chair, thank you for your presentation. I have several questions. Could you go back to the slide with the average income demographic of 66,000? I was curious as to where that number came from. That seems a little high. The average...
It's
The
rating
average
is
household income in Elyria, or in this market, is this the red line or the blue line? Because it seems a little bit high.
That would be I'm looking at Lizzie because she pulled this custom trade area. It's the red line, because that's what we talk when retailers aren't concerned about the blue
Okay,
line.
that explains
Yeah.
it. Okay, thank you. What other communities in Ohio have you done work for, just generally?
Yeah, currently we're working with Chardon, Salem, Miami Township, and Lorraine.
Okay. A typical agreement is a 3-year agreement?
Correct,
Typical?
yes, ma'am.
If I could continue, Mr. Chairman. I guess I would like to see always, I mean, we need these things, but I'm always concerned about the balance between the local mom and pops we have here and making sure that they survive as well. How do you interface with the various medical pieces and parts, because there's a lot in Northeast Ohio, industrial, and like convention center, there was some talk a few years ago that Elyria was going to do a convention center. I mean, is that something that would also sort of play into this overlook, or is it just strictly the retail side of things?
They all touch, but we are not involved in the direct engagement with all of those different stakeholders. They are all absolutely connected. We talk about the medical community. We have had certain communities hire us strictly because we need to make sure that we can continue to recruit doctors to the community, and that doctors and doctors' spouses have the amenities in the community that they want to be able to do that, right? Like, that's priorities that we come across. Same can be true within industrial use. We've been in, I don't even know what 0.0 of economic development we're on now, but we started with let's just develop good sites, and then it went to let's just develop good people, and then it was let's just have housing, and there's been this evolution to where now the primary consumer group is choosing where they want to live, and then they're finding jobs. And so while we don't directly go and engage and, again, say, all right, university, hospital, university health, what do you want to see? What are you looking for? The benefit that comes when we win in the community benefits all of those other groups at the same time. And I want to address the mom and pop thing too, so I don't want to say didn't hear that. Absolutely something we hear. We have kind of two comments on that. One is we don't want to recruit industries where there's already a maxed out market. So if we see that there is already too much coffee in the region, we do not want to go and recruit another coffee shop to compete with the, I can't remember the one that's across the street with the sandwiches and soups and.
Yeah, I see.
Right, so we don't want to go and recruit to compete with them, and retailers don't want to be in a market where they have to compete with them. For the opportunities where there is leakage and there are opportunities, national retail is the invitation for people to pull off of the highway and explore the community. Because we might love Erie Alley, but the general consumer doesn't know Erie Alley. They know McAllister's, Culver's, whatever it might be, and they get off the interstate. Then once they're off the interstate, they can explore. So rising tides lift all boats. It sounds cliche, but it's true when we think about being on 480, being on an interstate, having major highways. because traveling families, people going to work, people traveling for business, as much as I love local family-owned businesses, the reason I pull off the interstate and the reason most people pull off the interstate is because they see a national brand and know I can go to Starbucks and get the cup of coffee that I expect.
Through the chair, if I, one just additional question, is there a geographical focus of this? Are you going to focus more on, the downtown area or where there is big box or where the greatest need is?
Through you, Mr.
Perhaps
Chairman.
that will,
Yeah,
I'm sorry,
so,
Mayor.
Originally, we were talking about the entire city. We've got some developable land on the west side of town that Ms. Culver and I are in conversation with developer. It was the mall area, a little bit on the Chestnut Commons, even though you have ABC Development, you have DBR over there. And then, even tonight, as they were driving around, mentioned downtown Elyria with some help that we could get something in here because of the charm and what we have here. So it is a broader scope of the city of Elyria, looking at what are our pockets, and again, to his point, this is way outside my ball of wax, but looking at the geocache and all that different stuff to see where people are going, where we can draw people to.
Mr. Armstrong, I think I cut you off before. I apologize. Please go.
Through you, Chair. So my question is, I know I'm not as seasoned as most of my colleagues up here, but Elyria used to have a lot of shopping and dining and clubbing, to be per se, back in my youth. So the challenge I'm struggling with is how do you approach, because you got like TJ Maxx and other things that we've had out here already and have left. So how do you go about revisiting to maybe reunite those companies that we have already had in those dinings? Thank you.
Please.
Great question. A lot of the brands that have been here, I would ask, how long has it been since we engaged with those brands, right? Especially with TJ Maxx, and when we talk about TJ Maxx in our office, we're talking TJ Maxx, Marshalls, and Home Goods, because it's all one company. They are publicly traded, and in January of every year, they have to come out and appease their shareholders and say, hey, we plan on opening this many stores this year. And someone has to get those sites in front of that that real estate director to be able to then open those stores. And so the plans ebb and flow. Some of it is macroeconomic, but generally for all of our publicly traded retail companies, growth must be king to appease shareholders. So if we're going to grow, the only way you grow as a retailer is adding new stores. And if we're going to add new stores, we have to find the right real estate and right demographics that match. And so it's taking those things, going back and saying, hey, TJ Maxx, we noticed Marshalls is going to open 42 new stores this year. Do you think that this would be a good fit for one of those?
Mr. Snyder?
Through you, Mr. Chair, do you find that the big box retailers and the chains gravitate more towards newer built construction, and that some of our retail centers are dated and they're not interested in them for that reason, that maybe geographically they like it, but they do not like the age of the facility? Or, you know what I'm saying, the age?
Quite the opposite, especially right now when interest rates are the way that they are. Big box stores want to backfill existing space instead of building new, because the cost and economics of backfilling is much more affordable, much more profitable than building new in the current state that we're in.
There's lots of space here.
Bed Bath & Beyond is the example of they filed for bankruptcy. They had to put all these big box stores up. Their leases were up, or put their leases up, put them for sale, and like 97% of all of the Bed Bath & Beyonds in America were refilled, had leases re-signed within like 6 months, I think, like very fast. Second gen, third gen spaces are very, very, very attractive right now.
Thank you.
Mr. Lippian?
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair. Just a question. I see, how many years have retail strategies been in operation?
We were founded in 2011, so not quite 14, but it will be 14 this year.
Okay. And out of, I see 800-plus retailers included, is that as a team at Retail Strategies? Because in another portion, you talk about 250-plus years of retail real estate experience. So is that 800-plus retailers recruited as your team or adding the individual experience of team members?
That is only during their tenure at Retail Strategies.
Okay, great. And then what percentage of the retailers you recruited survived?
I don't have an accurate number, and the worst thing I could do would be in a public forum to tell you a number that's wrong. But I don't know, but we are not in the business of putting retailers in communities that fail, right? I mean, that's not a successful business model for us, candidly, not a successful business model for the retailers, and doesn't build a lot of confidence with the communities we work with if we're finding brands that are going out of business.
Sure. I ask because I'm sensitive to some questions like those that Councilman Armstrong asked about there previously being a TJ Maxx and it's not here anymore. So I'm kind of wondering, out of that 800 plus, what fraction of that pie didn't make it? Are you guys tracking that?
I would not be surprised if our implementation team was tracking it. I don't have the number directly, and there absolutely it's not 100%, right? Like that's not true because we've put Bed Bath & Beyonds in communities 10 years ago, and Bed Bath & Beyond is now no longer a store, so there are no more Bed Bath & Beyonds that are in that community. Yeah. Same for Hobby Lobby, same for Joann's, kind of go down the list. Those are retailers that we've worked with in the past, and they filed for bankruptcy, and we don't like it. Our clients don't like it, but it is unfortunately the nature of working with some of those groups.
That's relevant, especially with Red Lobster that came up. And then just one more question, if I may, and it's just a quick aside. It would be good to know what that percentage would be, because then we can learn from it, because we don't learn anything from our successes. We learn mostly from our failures. So it'd be good to be tracking that so you could find out how to get better. Last question, if you could pick a success story municipality out of all the municipalities you worked in, perhaps in Ms. Sanders' area, what would that success municipality be? And why do you think it was successful with this retail strategy that you're implementing?
So in Lizzie's territory, probably Chardon, because Chardon came to us and in similar situations, wanting retail, needing retail, and we were able to come and work with them and get some base hits along the way, but also have big projects built up in the pipeline that we're really proud of. For me, I really like the story of Tullahoma, Tennessee. That's more, I live in Alabama, it's closer to me, but that was a community that used to be incredibly vibrant, started to decline. A lot of legacy retailers closed. They were up for a large industrial project and a finalist for that project, and ended up not winning that industrial project because the CEO ultimately came to their community and said, I'm not getting anybody to live here. My wife's not going to live here. This doesn't work for me. And so that community realized they had to make a change. They brought us on. We had several wins in the market, and then they subsequently were able to win the next large industrial project that came along. I like that one, but that's kind of related to my background, so there's some anchor bias in that, which I admit, but that's one that I like.
Any additional questions from the committee? Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
I appreciate it. If not, then I will read the committee report. We have considered the matter of entering into a 3-year contract with Retail Strategies for retail consulting services, an ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into said contract. Monies will be paid from the 2016 1.5% income tax, Economic Development Professional Services Fund. Suspension and emergency clause is requested. Could I get a motion, please?
So move.
Second.
Motion's been made and properly seconded.
Question.
Question's been called. All in favor of the motion, use the voting sign aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, council, on both the last two items.
Thank you. Item number 10, the matter of entering into professional service contract with Strollo Architects for engineering and architectural services for design on the new CMG complex. Mayor,
Well, as much as I like talking tonight, I'm going to turn this over to Mr. Strozak.
thank you. Microphone, please. Got it.
Okay, there we go. I thought the light was on. Good evening. As you all know, we've been working on this project for a long time, and with the gracious support of council, we're to the point now where it is time for the architectural and engineering design of the complex. This contract will get you, in short, from the first shovel of dirt turned to the warranties being filled out when it is completed. They are looking at about 3 to 4 months to complete all this. There has been some work done previously in between because they know we're serious about this, but it is time now for this contract to go out and be approved. The money has been made available per the finance director in the Public Works Construction Fund, so the funds are available.
Any questions from the committee for Mr. Strozak? Mrs. Sawerka.
Thank you. Through the chair, do we have a total yet? I know it went back and forth.
For this contract? For this contract, yes, it's $1,139,114.
Thank you.
Mr. Schneider, was that a question?
Dollar amount, sorry.
$1,139,114.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Armstrong.
More of a, through you, Chair, I'm not on this committee, but I have more of a comment. Mr. Strozak, I'm very proud of your work on all this, and I know each and every one of those workers cannot wait to see this final product of your, from what I hear from a lot of individuals, your dream finally coming true. So thank you for all your hard work for getting this together.
It's been a team effort. It's been a team effort, and it includes all you folks, too. Thank you.
Any additional questions from the committee? If not, I will read the committee report. We have considered the matter of entering into a professional services contract with Strollo Architects for engineering and architectural services for design of the new CMG complex. An ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into said contract. Monies will be paid from Public Works Construction Fund. Suspension and emergency clause is requested. Could I get a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made and properly seconded.
Question.
Question's been called. All in favor, please use the voting sign aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Next item on the agenda, number 11, the matter of entering into professional services contract with Republic Services, for trash and landfill services. Safety Service Director?
Thank you. Through you. This contract is, we've not had a contract with Republic for the last, I don't know, at least a year, maybe 2 or 3. This is for trash disposal at the landfill, including bulk. Just, that's all we're dealing with here. So we're addressing that one now. I think with the amount of work that we do with them. It's important that we have a contract that documents the relationship. We're simply trying to get back to that place. It'll lock in what our commitments are to them and what their commitments are to us. It locks in the rates. And so I think that should be standard operating procedure, but this is us getting back under a contract with them for the relationship we have for trash disposal at the landfill.
Thank you. Are there any questions from the committee? Are you requesting an emergency clause with this?
It would be helpful given where we're at in the budget cycle for this year and haven't already started down that path. Yes,
Okay,
please.
thank you. If there's no questions, I'll read the committee report. We have considered the matter of entering into a contract with Republic Services for city trash and landfill services, an ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into said contract. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made and properly seconded.
Question.
Question's been called. All in favor, use the voting sign aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Sorry. Next item on the agenda, number 12, the matter of entering into change order number 1 for 2024 OPWC Midway Boulevard resurfacing project. Engineer Schneider.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, through you. During the construction of the Midway Boulevard, we bid the project out last year, and the numbers came in good. Because the numbers were good, we had additional grant funds that we thought would be a good idea to go out and do some additional improvements in the same project limits. So we had the contractor perform some additional work to exhaust more of the grant. We didn't exhaust it all, but almost all of it. And we're here today to allow them to get paid now. So,
All right. Any questions? Mr. Oswald.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I'm not on this committee, but, so that was grant money, and I seen all for the street, but I see a lot of the sidewalks on the north side. So is that a lot of the extra work that you were talking about? Because it really looks sharp, but I don't know if that was incorporated in the beginning process.
that was part of the additional work, doing some sidewalks out there that were deteriorated, some curbing that was deteriorated as well as some additional crack sealing and pavement markings.
Yeah, it turned out nice.
Thank you.
Mrs. Davis?
Through you, Chair. It's more of a comment. I thank you for working on this project and getting it done. I don't get as many calls now about people's cars being torn, wheels being torn up about Midway Boulevard there. So thank you, and the continued service of the city is fixing the streets. You may not realize it is such a big part of what people want. And so and they call and say thank you. They really do. So I'll pass it along, say thank you.
Are there any additional questions from the committee? Law Director has something.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Chair. Engineer Schneider, if you could send my office a reference to the original ordinance for purposes of drawing up the legislation,
Sure.
that would be very helpful. Thank you.
I would also ask that this be passed as an emergency, just because it's been a while.
Okay. If there's no further questions, I'll read the committee report. We have considered the matter of entering into change order number 1 for 2024 OPWC Midway Boulevard resurfacing project, an ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into said change order for the said product. Change order amount is $21,034.52. OPWC share equals $15,565.54. The city share, $5,468.98. Can I get a motion?
So move.
Second.
Motion's been made and properly seconded.
Question.
Question's been called. All in favor, please use the voting sign aye. Aye. Oppose? Motion carries. And the final item on the finance agenda, the matter of amendments to the 2025 temporary appropriations. Director Pileski.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We have no changes to the temporary tonight.
Wonderful. Yay. Okay. If not, I would call the joint, I would ask utilities to be called for the joint meeting, please.
I'll call utilities to order, please. If I may, Mr. Chair?
Yes.
There's one item on agenda that's just for utilities, and that's the approval of the November 20th, 2024 utility meeting minutes. Can I get a motion, please?
So moved.
Is moved and properly second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Item number 2 on the agenda is the matter of a contract with CT Consultants for lead service line project, Phase 5. Leader Jacob.
Through you, Mr. Chair. We're applying for the next 2 ordinances. I'll explain everything. We're applying for $5 million more in grants and 0% loan for lead service line replacement and service line identification. CT Consultants has helped us with the first 4 lead projects. They've done an excellent job. And this, for lead service line number 5, their fee is going to be $142,300. I couldn't put this in the ordinance. I was in the process of going in a hospital, having surgery, talking to the EPA, and everything kind of fell to the wayside. But good. And we'd like this also passed as an emergency.
Okay. Are there any questions? Mrs. Sawerka.
Thank you, through the chair. Mr. Jacob, can you give us an estimate of how much we have done and how much more? Like, are we at the 50% mark? Are we at the 60% mark of eliminating lead service lines? Do we have an idea approximately? I know we've been doing it for several years now.
Through you, Mr. Chair. We've received already $3 million from the EPA, $2.5 million forgivable loan, $500,000 at 0% interest loan. We're getting awarded $5 million the 29th of this month. 50% will be forgivable, 50% or 47% will be at 0%. We estimate Phase 5, after talking with distribution and going through all the records, we think Phase 5 will get rid of all the lead service lines and all the unknowns. We have about 4,000 unknown service lines. By 2027, the city has to have a plan in place to replace all the lead service lines, figure out all the unknowns within 10 years. We're one of the few cities that jumped on this early, and we're way ahead of the game. So my goal is to have all this done by 2027.
So I'm going to reiterate that question. Are we roughly at the 50% mark of being complete
I think
now?
we're after phase lead service line number 4 that's coming up, we should be way over 50%.
Mr. Schneider.
Through you, Mr. Chair, to Director Jacob. I know that there had been some letters that had recently went out because I received some correspondence about potential lead hazards. So is the homeowner supposed to then call and are we checking to verify that it's a lead service line? Like, there was a letter recently, I think in the last few months, that went out to residents. Do you know, like, what's the process there?
Safety Service Director, I'm sorry.
That's fine, thank you. Those letters were required from the EPA based on what our understanding of their
service line might be, and so there was different forms of the letter depending on what our understanding might be, unknown being one of those possibilities. And then the letter gave instructions to the property owner as to what next steps to take. They need to identify what their service line is so that then we can catalog that and update our records, right, Sam?
Yeah.
I mean,
So
and
there-
then what action is necessary, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but what action is necessary will be somewhat contingent on how that line is identified.
So if they test the line and it comes back positive for lead, then they can apply for the grant, for grant money for line replacement? Is that what I'm understanding, or no?
There were
Is there
three,
assistance if,
through you, Mr. Chair, there were 3 types of letters that went out. One, if there were lead service lines from the water main to the shutoff or the shutoff to the water meter. The second type of letter went out if we don't know what any of them are. The third type of letter that went out is galvanized service lines requiring replacement. We could send someone out to the house to tell you what's going into the meter. What's in the yard is totally different. We have to dig part of the yard up with a pothole machine. And this is what part of this, the next $10 million we're going to use, part of that's going to be for determining the unknowns. And then if we do find lead or galvanized, we're required to replace our side and the customer side for free.
right, thank you, and thank you, Director.
Thank you. Any, Mr. Stewart?
Just a comment. Sam, I just really appreciate your leadership in this. It's just, it's incredible what's doing on it. So are there what areas have you focused on, or what areas are done, or is it just kind of based on the dollar amount? Where are you focusing on the replacement now?
Each project, we're giving the engineer, we're getting what we know are lead service lines. And it's mainly the older sections of town. As a contractor goes in, they have to check the service line. One pothole on our side, one pothole on the public side or private side. And then when they find out what it is, if it's lead or galvanized, they replace it. If not, they mark it down, we update our records, and they go on to the next house. But we've been through our records dating back 100 years, and a lot of them still, it doesn't say what they are.
Mrs. Davis?
Through you, Chair. So, are they focusing on the galvanized pipes that are in the older homes? So let's say over in the Cascade colonies, those homes was built in the early 40s. So wouldn't those homes have a lot of those galvanized pipes in there, or no?
There's really no rhyme or reason. Sometimes older sections, the streets all got changed for whatever reason we can't determine. And that's why part of the grant money is going to be used a pothole so we can check the 4,000 plus unknowns that we have.
Thank you.
Mr. Snyder?
Through you, Mr. Chair, so I have no idea with lead pipes or I know with lead-based paint, anything post-1978 is deemed free of lead. Is that the same with pipes, like into the service lines? If the house was built after, excuse me.
Normally, if the house was
after
built
like 1978.
in the mid-'80s and '78, there's no, they couldn't have anything with lead in it.
Okay, thank you.
Any additional questions? Safety Service Director.
I just wanted to make a quick comment. Thank you, through you. I'd like to say, Sam and the water team, by really tackling this aggressively, has put Elyria in an advantageous position, because this funding that's available from the EPA, there aren't a lot of communities competing for it yet, because we're really at the forefront of this project. So we've been able to access some grant funding that I think is going to dry up when everybody else starts getting closer to that deadline. And also, I think there's contractors out there that we've been able to work with and been able to get access to that, prices are going to go up because more communities are going to be looking for their services. So I think by getting into this sooner and really tackling it, especially given the age of our city, I think we're going to be in a far advantageous position. I'd like to say thanks to Sam and the water team for their diligence in working on this project.
Thank you. Mrs. Davis.
Through you again, Chair. If you have concern, is there a number that the people can call to, so you can come and test? Or is it something that you figure out and just pop up and test? Everywhere?
Depending on what kind of letter they got. If it's on the inside of the house, we can tell what's in the house and what's going into their meter. We can send a service worker out and they can determine that. If it's from the water main to the shut-off box, the yard has to be potholed and dug up. That, we're not doing that now till we get the grant funding.
Through you, Chair, one question. If we ignore the letter, is there still a number that if you have doubts, you could call and check to see if someone would come out and check?
Yes, the number that was on the letter was my office phone number. They could call my office, and if I don't answer, leave a message, we'll get back with them.
We ignored the letter.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay.
What's your phone number,
If you ignored the
Sam?
letter, I
Yeah.
want a number out there so people can call and check.
What is your number?
Okay, 440-244-4310,
Chronicle paper. Put that out there.
extension 6201.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Got this, Owen?
No, don't put my number down.
Mr. Oswald.
They could call our number, and I could talk to the person and give them one of my staff or Dave Rothgary, and we'll send a service worker out.
Mr. Oswald.
Through you, Mr. Chair, Mr. Jacobs, when they were replacing all those water meters in the city, when we had that done a few years back, did that give us any information on some of the lines coming in, whether we knew if they were lead or not, if they were galvanized pipe? Did
Through
that
you,
help
Mr.
out?
Chair, of the 24,000 meters we replaced, they got information on about 22,000 of the insides of the house. Some information, for whatever reason, they didn't get.
Mr. Schneider.
Through you, Mr. Chair, to Director Jacob, do you know on average, and I know that some houses have bigger setbacks than others, but on average, what this cost would run in the event that a resident reaches out and says, do you have any idea how much this would cost? On average, is it a $1,500 or a $3,500 repair on average? What would you say?
On average, $1 million will do about 250 houses, so I'm thinking of right around 5,000-ish.
Thank you.
Any additional questions? If not, I will read the committee report. We have considered the matter of entering into a contract with CT Consultants for the lead service line project, phase number 5. An ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into the said contract with CT Consultants for phase number 5 of the lead service line project. Emergency clause is requested. On behalf of finance, can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made and properly seconded.
Question?
Question's been called. All in favor, use a voting sign aye. Aye. Opposed?
And from utilities, can I get a motion, please?
So move.
It's been moved and properly second. Is there any other discussion?
Question?
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is the matter of applying for a water supply revolving loan account, WSRLA, or grant through Ohio EPA for lead service line replacement phase 5.
For you, Mr. Chair, this is the exact same thing we've done 4 times before. And we had a conversation with the EPA prior to Christmas. They said that we were going to get this $5 million the end of this month, and no one's applying yet for the other money. There's all kind of money there. And they recommended I get the nomination form in which I partially did from the hospital and finished it when I got home. That's already in. And this is just authorizing the mayor to, when all the paperwork is done, to sign it if we're awarded.
Any questions? If not, I will read the committee report. We have considered the matter of to apply for and accept and enter into a water supply revolving loan account agreement and/or grant for the lead service line and galvanized service line project, phase number 5. An ordinance authorizing the mayor to apply for and accept and enter into the said agreement. Emergency clause is requested. From finance, can I get a motion?
So move.
Second.
Motion's been made and properly seconded.
Question.
Question's been called. All in favor, use the voting sign aye. Aye. Opposed? Mrs. Mitchell?
From Utilities, can I get a motion, please?
So moved.
Moved and properly second. Is there any other questions?
Question.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Next one is the matter of advertising for bids and enter in a contract for lead service line replacement, phase 5.
Same thing.
For you, Mr. Chair, this is, again, like we've done 4 times before. Once we get all the paperwork, the nomination forms in, sometime this summer or late spring, early summer, we'll bid this out so it can go to the EPA in August for award.
Any questions from the committee? If not, I'll read the committee report. We have considered the matter of advertising for bids and enter into a contract for the lead service line and galvanized service line project, phase number 5. An ordinance authorizing the mayor to advertise for bids and enter into said contract. Emergency clause is requested. On behalf of finance, can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made and properly seconded.
Question.
Question's been called. All in favor, use the voting sign aye. Aye. Opposed?
From
Motion
Utilities-
carries. Mrs.
Sorry,
Mitchell?
excuse me. From Utilities, can I get a motion, please?
So moved.
Moved and properly second. Is there any other discussion?
Question.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. And Mr. Jacobs, I just want to say, you mentioned twice that you did this work from your hospital bed. Thank you so much for doing that. You shouldn't have to have done that, but thank you, sir.
I would like to go on
Safety
record as saying I
Service
told
Director.
Sam to relax and rest. Multiple times I told him.
Thank you.
Final item on the joint agenda. Number 5, the matter of applying for and accept, if awarded, the 2025 Community Litter Grant through the Ohio EPA. Director Strozak.
Through you, Chair, this grant is sponsored by the Ohio EPA Recycle Ohio grant. And through all the criteria that was given, we felt that it was best that we found a provision where you can actually pay a contractor with this grant. So what we decided to do was apply the grant towards paying Barnes Nursery that runs our compost facility. We pay the entire amount right now, which depending on the year and the amount of tonnage that goes in, is right around $170,000. The grant would cover $136,469. We'd be on the hook for the match of $34,117 for a total of $170,586. So we know the match funds are there. So we think that's our best bet to go with that.
That's awesome. Mrs. Sawarka.
Thank you. Through you, we're still only letting Illyrians utilize the Barnes facility, correct?
Yes.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, Law Director?
Through you, Mr. Chair, Director Pulaski, where would the matching funds come from?
That would, through you, Mr. Chair, the match would come from the sanitation fund.
Okay, thank you.
Any additional questions? If not, I will read the committee report. We have considered the matter of applying for and accept, if offered, the 2025 Community and Litter Grant through the Ohio EPA, an ordinance authorizing the mayor to apply for and accept the said grant. This has been requested as an emergency. On behalf of finance, can I get a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made and properly seconded.
Question.
Question's been called. All in favor, use the voting sign aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Mrs. Mitchell?
From Utilities, can I get a motion, please?
So moved.
Moved and properly second. Is there any further discussion?
Question.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
With no more business before this joint committee, could I get a motion? Thank you. Can I get a second?
Second.
Motion's been made and properly seconded. All in favor, please use the voting sign aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Good night, everyone.
Okay, this is what everybody gets.
Right.
The day after the.
The issue is because when it's an exhibit, the backup's not always attached to the file. Maybe that's what they're referring to.
Maybe that's what she meant, but.
Because I don't, maybe that's what they're not getting.
See, what I do is I
Yeah.
make copies
Yeah.
of the first page of the referral
Right.
just to help you guys.
Right.
So you don't have to try to match this with the
Right.
agenda items. That's,
They're not getting the list for, say, the utilities or the demo, or, because I think they wait to make sure it's updated.
well, the demo is in here, because that was part of from the December meeting. And she probably forgot because it was way back on December 16th.
Right.
But that's okay. I'm not trying to call anybody out. I just want to make sure
Right.
that everybody does get everything. But
I-
if we do get some kind of a list later, then I would make sure everybody got it, so. I will. Okay. Okay.